Hello and welcome to the Startups of London podcast. I'm your host Ozan and the founder of Startups of London. Today, I'm joined by Janthana Kaenprakhamroy, founder and CEO of Tapoly. So Tapoly is a business insurance for small businesses, sole traders, freelancers, and the self-employed. And I would really like to understand what the business is, get to know the CEO and the founder, Janthana, a bit. And then we're going to have a conversation about the UK landscape, startups, and really fascinating stuff about what makes businesses grow. So welcome to our chat, Janthana.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
So tell us about yourself, your history. What brought you to this moment in life where you're the founder of this business, and the business itself in terms of what type of a team you have, how much growth have you seen? So a quick recap, if you will, for us.
Sure. I started my career in investment banks, to be honest. After graduated, I took the accountancy exam, worked in internal audit department up until the day that I decided that I'm going to set up my own company. And I discovered Tapoly through my own personal experience of having to deal with insurance company, trying to find short-term insurance for my Airbnb letting was impossible in 2016. So that's how I discovered the market gap. And from there, I was introduced to my co-founder who expert in tech. And together we built Tapoly as one of the first few on-demand insurance provider for the gig economy in the UK.
That's amazing. And tell us about the growth you've seen. You said you've established the company in 2016, 2017, I guess. And it's been for quite a few number of years, 6 years. So how has the company grown in this period? What were the ups and downs, the highs and lows?
I think insurance in terms of market volatility has never been bigger. In the last 6 years, insurance have been hit very, very hard by various significant events, starting from COVID, hard market, now, kind of recessions. The whole 6 years has been extremely difficult for small insurance companies like Tapoly to grow and survive. Many of our peers, many insurtech startups that started at around the same time have to fold their business during COVID. Obviously, we were very lucky that we are very lean as a company and we are very operationally, very efficient and cost-wise, very efficient. So we were able to sustain and stay, strong during this period. Today, obviously, we had a couple of bad years in the last couple of years. Ever since COVID, there has been less investment and innovation happening in the insurance space purely because of the whole market were in distress. But I've seen a huge trend upward from now. Everyone's starting to talking about, innovation again. There's more capacity in the market, which we didn't see a couple of years ago. So I think we are on the right path and I'm expecting a steep growth in the next coming month and years.
That's amazing. What are the stereotypical customers you have? What type of businesses do you usually come for you and use Tapoly?
Typically it would be, freelancers, contractors, and small businesses that could not be properly served by traditional insurance brokers or through kind of, online or via broker. And that's kind of, people that need insurance quick and easy or their risk profile doesn't really fit neatly into that traditional annual insurance policy. So effectively what happened in the last couple of years, it's longer than that, I would say, within the gig economy, the complexity of risk is extremely high because
and it's increasing
it's increasingly become more and more difficult for insurance company to put you into bracket, because the nature of freelancers and contractors is that your risk is in terms of profession and what you do could be quite gray, because an IT person could be doing marketing, could be doing consultancy in other area where he's not trained or being expert to do, for example.
So I'll interrupt you for a second just to be able to dig deep into this. So like the business that I have, for example, that I've built in the previous years, is relatively easy to go and find, like, I don't know, I don't even remember the name, Simply Insurance or something. And there are many competitors for that. So it is quick, easy, and I get a yearly insurance. But are you talking about the same thing? Like a yearly insurance that covers my liability legally in case, for example, someone gets hurt because of the responsibility of my business and so on? Or are we talking about a different category here? Whereas if someone were to build open up a limited company in the UK, which, as you know, takes like 2 days, very easy. And after they've done that, they work as a freelancer. And so what are they being insured against? What is the protection they are getting? So is there like a difference there? I'm just trying to get to the nuance of this so people understand this better.
Yes, obviously, like when a company is set up, there is some insurance obligations depending on the type of business that they set up. For regulated firm, like if you are in financial services, you need to have public liability, professional indemnity, and some other cover that are required according to your specific risk and profile. Tapoly cover the commercial liability product, which is pretty much everything that company need to cover their business risk or risk of running their business. Even, it stretches to some protection gap. For example, business interruptions, we've got cyber insurance, we've got employer liability and other liability products for businesses.
So if someone is doing video editing and working as a video editor, freelancer on some platform, or like a graphic designer, I don't know, a copy text, virtual assistants, marketing consultants. So is there like a specific case or example that you could share us in terms of the most frequently used products that you have that kind of helps people manage their risks?
Yeah, I mean, majority of businesses or majority of people that buy insurance, they would buy it on the basis that either, is required by their profession or by their clients. So, for example, if you're an accountant, you need insurance. Like typically, you need professional indemnity insurance. Now, depending on the risk, obviously, you got multiple insurance products that cover different type of risk. Cyber cover for cyber, like GDPR, that sort of stuff. Employer liability cover you for employer-related incident and so on and so on. So that type of, kind of cover we're talking about, that when you operate as a business, you will have some liability toward different stakeholders. And insurance is created to protect you from, those liabilities. What Tapoly, like the way we differentiate ourselves from our peers is that we provide the kind of flexible insurance policy, or at least we, trying to be as flexible as possible. We trying to create product that could fit nicely into the customer's risk profile and not the other way around. If you look at, like the cover that you can get online today, usually they will stereotype you. They will categorize you by profession. They, would allow you probably to put one single profession in there when you may be carried out multiple professions all at once. They probably would also restrict the jurisdictions in which your policies cover. For example, like US and Canada is typical regions that most worldwide insurance cover will not cover, for example. And many technology company and many UK-based business are doing business in US. And if you are too small, you may find it hard to get insurance cover for that region.
Oh, I see. Okay. So the flexibility and the different coverage for different small businesses, that's kind of the appeal here.
What we're trying to do, Tapoly are not trying to compete with existing players, but we're trying to be the kind of additional alternative platform for people who find it hard to get insurance, for people who may not fit neatly into that traditional annual insurance policy for any reason. It could be their profession, it could be the activity that they do, it could be the region, as I mentioned. We try and therefore is extremely complex. When customer come to us, it means that they can't go to Simply Business or other online website to get the cover that they need. Usually they come to us as a last resort. Or, in the past, we were able to offer insurance by the hours and by days. So we've got a lot of seasonal workers that come to us to get insurance by the hours and by day because their client need them to. Yes,
Yeah.
we have that, we have teacher that only do contract work occasionally as a side gig, and they would come and get insurance just for that particular day. And this cover used to be very, very popular just before COVID. But during COVID, of course, this product line has been removed from our platform. But we are hoping that by the end of the year, we would bring this back because I think it's sorely needed. We wanted to be one of very few platforms that could offer that level of flexibility.
I see.
Yeah.
And you're working with a lot of different businesses, your customers. So I think it's an interesting position to have an overview of the UK landscape in terms of startups and different businesses being built. So my next question is kind of concerning that. In your experience and the know-how that you've had through this company, how do you see the UK business landscape in general? And I think that question covers, in your experience, what percentage of the businesses that you work with, in your observation, are startups in the traditional sense? So they have either customer funded or VC funded or like an angel funded ambition to grow rapidly, versus really small traditional businesses that like have a few people but do not have their eyes set on year-on-year ambitious extreme growth. How would you ratio these two types of players in terms of your experience?
I apologize. I presume that you are asking me to kind of differentiate my customer base.
Not really, but your observation about how the UK ecosystem is divided, I guess. You don't even have to talk about Tapoly, but as a leader, what you see in terms of your experience, right? How do you see the UK ecosystem? Do you think there are more of these businesses that have ambition to grow, like what we mean when we say traditional startups, right? Or do you see more of the businesses that are lacking ambition, small-ish, and not have their eyes set on year-over-year growth?
Okay, so I presume that you want me to kind of, give you a summary of my customer segment and what is going on in this space, in the gig economy space.
Yeah, sure.
I think, during COVID, we have seen a lot of our clients not renewing the policy purely because their business is not in operation. So that certainly COVID have impacted some of our our clients. I'm not surprised there because micro businesses are so vulnerable to any kind of market volatility. So, with COVID being a massive event or incident for the economy, you will see more business fault during that time. But what I also see is that a lot of entrepreneurs, they're very resilient. So I see, the same customer come back, buy insurance for different business, or they, start different business entirely. We've seen customer coming back. So there is some resiliency, and there is a huge customer loyalty among the entrepreneur. At the end of the day, trust is extremely important to build, and people like brand that they recognize. So if they use you and they're happy with you, they will, return to that platform usually. And we today, we've got a very broad range of customer. We've got anything from freelancers, one-man band contractors to, like a law side company. And some of our customer from inception have been, initially they would buy a cover for a few £100. Today, I'm talking about a few £1,000 in the last couple of years, for example. So we've seen, like a high growth business, and then we've seen, like smaller business, but resilient business that keep coming back and need insurance.
And in your experience, what is making it difficult for UK businesses to grow?
Well, I can only tell you from my own personal experience as a small business owner, is investment is extremely difficult, especially regulatory company like us. We can't access or we can't use certain type of investment, for example, investment vehicle like loan.
Is it a legal restriction? Is that why?
Yes or no. It's just more like, like as part of being a regulated firm, we have to comply with the FCA capital requirement rules, and that restrict our ability to use certain type of investment vehicle. That's all.
Makes sense.
For other business, if you can get the loan to agree to lend you money or raise funding, then of course it's, all that investment is at your disposal. But for us, it's more restricted.
Makes sense. And in terms of the growth of Tapoly, I'm curious. This is a question that I always tend to ask. What are the metrics that you follow as a founder to understand where the business is today versus where it was? And perhaps in that question, you can include some metrics about the team, the customer. I don't know, you don't have to tell about the revenue, but you can tell us about some of the metrics just to indicate how much you've grown and what size of a company you are now, as opposed to, let's say, 2017 when you first built the business.
In terms of the metric that we use, ultimately is conversion rate, obviously.
What is that for the uninitiated in the industry?
Conversion rate is basically the rate in which customers are buying insurance.
So, I mean, what is the start of the funnel, I should ask? The conversion from your website visitors to customers, or the ones who actually ask a quote? And then what is the conversion of, should I ask?
Our conversion to sales. So basically, it's conversion from website visitors to the sales funnel. So that is basically the conversion. But Tapoly's got two value proposition, or it's like a combo business. We've got the technology solution that we provide to insurance companies. So we are a SaaS licensed company for the industry. And, on the other hand, we've also a regulated insurance broker in the UK, or MGA, they call it, Managing General Agent. So we provide our own insurance product and the insurer's insurance product through our platform to the customer direct. So we've got retail and wholesale business, and that's the kind of, the part that I wanted to explain. So when I say conversion, this is predominantly on the kind of customer buying our insurance. So it's like one part of the business as opposed to the whole of the business. And our revenue is kind of, most of our revenue come from the technology side, really. The serving customer business is a loss-making business, but we are doing it because there's a huge potential. It's slower to grow, but it's sticky. In the future, it's sticky. And the number of customers is growing rapidly because of the market. You see the whole gig economy really, really pick up now in the last couple of months. And no doubt in the next 12, it will be accelerating. So that's basically what I kind of expect. In terms of the, kind of the number and growth, right now, we're quite lean in our operations. All in all, we probably got about 10. We have planned to double this number or triple this number by the end of the year. So that would be by my ambitions.
You mean in terms of the team size?
Exactly. It's relatively small. But considering that we are, a technology company, majority of our processes are driven by tech and less people. So it's very less people dependent, but it's more tech dependent. We build our technology on a local basis. So everything we do is just to use the technology to power and then automate most of our processes. There's a lot less work to do for Tapoly because everything else has been handled by the system itself. And therefore, although, we just about 10 people roughly, but the operational capability is far more than traditional insurance broker or MGA, for example, because of that operational efficiency. So what I'm trying to explain is that there's no bearing between the size of our company and what we can do, because, for every person, we are capable of doing 3-4 times the number of tasks than normal person will be able to do because of that, the level of automation that we have built. And we've got fantastic process and procedure to help, with the customer training, to help with staff training and other stuff.
It seems to be a very advantageous position. You are in a market that is growing. You have a team that is ready to scale. You've identified problem, and then you have some experience in the field, and then you're building a technological solution in a field where people do things more manually, I guess. So it seems most of the stars are aligned. And this brings me on to my next and potentially final question, which is, I've seen a lot of companies, to be honest, that have grown to the size that you have. And then this is the exact moment where the style of leadership and how people feel about company and how much ownership they have towards what they're building plays a vital role and ends up determining if that company is going to grow into a bigger one or simply fail. So with that in mind, tell us a bit about your leadership style and tell us a bit about how someone from the company would describe the working environment of Tapoly.
I basically combine my leadership style based on my own experience of working in big organizations like various investment banks, as well as my own personal value. I have certain belief. My personal belief is to add value. So I think, Tapoly is built nearly mirror my own personal value in the way that, Tapoly want to be the helper, the supporter of the gig economy, because we expect or we believe that the gig economy play an important role for the UK economy and for the world, as a matter of fact. When there is a recession hit, gig economy will need all the help and support, and it's gig economy that actually supporting the entire economy. And, the reason why we basically like this concept of the gig and sharing economy as well, because one of the investment that I did a couple of years ago was in sharing economy. And I love that market because of what it represents. The world have several problems that the whole sharing economy could solve. And certainly environmentally, we need to reduce carbon dioxide, we need to reduce waste and all of that. And, we need to share more. So the whole sharing concept, whether it's sharing your services or sharing a product and gadgets, become very important for the world. So we are targeting this market because, one, we want to be of value, but to be of value, we need to be where it's needed. So I think my leadership style is very much in line with that. And the second is diversity and inclusion. I spent years in investment bank promoting various diversity groups. I share one of the diversity group at UBS, and then at Deutsche Bank, I sit on the steering committee for one of the diversity group as well to support. Nice. So I've been, kind of an advocate for the diversity and inclusion for as long as I've been nearly in investment banking or my profession. I mean, nearly, kind of at least half of my years in my adulthood, not in my adulthood, but more like professional, like life. I've been supporting this.
I think it's a big cause, and people in the team, especially in a big company, it's difficult to understand and make the connections between what the leaders think and how the operations run, etc. But in a smaller company, it's much more visible, isn't it? Yeah. It's you cannot get away with saying something and then you have some banners and some presentations outlining values like honesty, integrity, but people act differently. You can kind of get away with it if the organization is big enough. But in a startup, there's really no room to hide. So everything is in the middle, transparent. And we all have mistakes, we all have improvement areas, and there are things we need to learn and grow as well. But that being said, I think this is like a journey, and it looks like an interesting start of a journey for Tapoly as well. Thank you so much for joining our chat today, Janthana. It was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much for having me. So privileged to be on your show. Thank you.
Thanks.